If you're confused about investing in-state or out-of-state, this video is for you. What's up guys, it's McKeown back again with another video this week. Today I wanted to discuss a question that I get asked a lot. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I am a real estate agent as well as an investor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of Texas. However, I get asked a lot, especially people out on the West Coast, do I invest in my local market or do I invest out of state? So first things first, I'm going to give you guys an idea of kind of my perspective, what I've been fortunate enough to do in my local market. I moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area about 4.5 years ago. Within 60 days, I had already closed on a duplex. All of the properties that I own are in my metroplex. Now I have spoke about it before. I am in the midst of purchasing a condo out of state. Now the intention there is having it be a short-term rental for me to be able to use and utilize. It is, for example, in Colorado. Whether or not it's in the summer and I take my dogs up for just a nice vacation, or it's in the winter where I go up and enjoy a nice mountain snowboarding, I personally am not going to invest a ton out of state because of the opportunity within my state is just too much to really lose out on. But now on the flip side, there are people that are located, in the Portland, Oregons, the Seattle, Washingtons, the San Diego and LAs of California, where, you're talking about markets that are just incredibly expensive. The idea of purchasing a property there versus purchasing a property in my local market, you may be looking at something that costs 3 times, in those large markets such as Seattle, LA, San Diego, Chicago, so on and so forth, than what it may cost in my market. Now that's not to say that there's one right answer. Hey, if you live in San Diego, you absolutely should not invest locally in San Diego. You should only invest out of state. There's not really a right or wrong answer here. What I'm going to explain to you guys is really what makes sense for you. One of the big reasons that people invest out of state is they've already invested locally where they are and they want to diversify. So for example, myself, I don't invest in one particular city and only one particular area of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If I were to go through all of my rental properties and kind of give you an idea of location, Plano, which is in the northeast side of Dallas. I've got one in Farmers Branch, which is on the northwest side of North Dallas. Irving, which is on the west side of Dallas, technically southwest side, working towards southwest. And then I have also a property in Ennis. Ennis is about 30 minutes straight south of downtown. So I'm not necessarily diversifying myself out of state, I'm diversifying myself in the local area of Dallas and Fort Worth. I also own a primary residence downtown, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm going to diversify a little bit by buying a condo in Colorado. And honestly, I think I may have one more condo or one more short-term rental under my books in the next few years, maybe potentially in Vegas. But other than that, I'm gonna be personally purchasing all of my properties locally in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So my idea of diversifying my rental portfolio is just making sure that I'm not buying an entire street's worth of duplexes so that, if the market does crash or something happens negatively in that area, maybe another winter storm comes through, I'm missing out on every potential income that I'm generating from the duplexes on that street. Instead, I want to really diversify myself, and a lot of people reach out to me to invest locally here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, especially from those areas that are a little bit more expensive, so they can diversify, so they can have properties in Seattle that are getting a little bit better appreciation just because the cost of living and the affordability there is just so astronomically high. And then they come down here and they get a little bit better cash flow. You can buy a single family home. I was actually talking to an agent in the LA area. He actually had someone reach out to me, Ivan, who actually watches a lot of my YouTube videos. I helped him purchase a rental property here, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, already has a tenant in place for $300,000, wanted an idea of what that would purchase in his area that he lives in, and speaking with the agent there, it would buy basically a small condo, 1-bedroom, 1-bath with a pretty high HOA. So when you compare the two, it's a pretty easy decision for him to be able to invest out of state here locally in the Dallas-Fort Worth market while still living in California. Now, another reason people invest out of state is you can really pick and choose what kind of market you want. So for example, yesterday I was actually in a Facebook group and I saw someone breaking down kind of the numbers of a property that they were purchasing. I think they were purchasing it for about $60,000, then putting about $25,000 worth of work in it. So you're at about $85,000 all in, and the ARV was about $100,000. Now, if you switch over to California, the Seattle, the LA, the San Diego, or even technically anywhere in most of the large metroplexes in Texas, you're not buying a property for $60,000. You're not rehabbing a property that's $60,000 for $25,000 and having it be only worth $100,000. I honestly purchased a house recently and did an entire remodel on it. I did it all over my YouTube channel, so check that out if you haven't. But I purchased that for $120,000, and I haven't seen anyone really purchase a solid single family home in a good area, or at least a promising area of the DFW Metroplex, anywhere even close to that. Now this area, to give you guys some clarification here, it was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is probably one of the best areas that I personally have heard of in terms of cash flow. But on the flip side, you also have to think about cash flow and appreciation. So if cash flow is strictly what you want to pursue, then Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania may be one of the best options for you. Now, I'm not a local expert in the Pittsburgh area, but what I can tell you is that property that, ARV is worth maybe $100,000, you fast forward 10 years, it may be worth 120, 140, maybe 150. However, I've purchased a duplex just 4 years ago in my local market, and in 4 years, I almost have $200,000 in appreciation alone from my duplex. So really, depending on what you're looking for, if you're looking for cash flow, if you're looking for appreciation, if you're looking for a good mix of the two, is really gonna depend on what kind of market you're looking at. Obviously, Pittsburgh being a great place for cash flow, California or the LAs or San Diegos may have a little bit better appreciation because honestly, there's no cash flow there. Or DFW is a good opportunity really for the mix of the two. But the real beauty here is if you are interested in investing in out of state, is you can really pick and choose what you want, right? So for some people, all they care about is the monthly cash flow. There's other people that, hey, I'm reaching out to Casey McKeown. He's a local real estate agent and investor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I just want to break even on my note, and I want the house to be worth a significant amount more in 10 years. And in our market, appreciation will really take it there. Now, another reason why people may invest out of state versus where they are locally, this doesn't really necessarily pertain to me. I purchased locally, and Texas is a very landlord-friendly state. But if you are aware of the landlord regulations in your own state, it may entice you to want to invest out of state. Now, me being local to Texas, I know a lot of the regulations when it comes to evicting tenants and how to do that in the state of Texas. I personally have had to go through one eviction with one of my tenants early on in my landlord, experience. But if you're looking at places such as like New York or places such as California, the landlord regulations are much more strict. It's a lot more difficult to evict tenants, and that can cause an issue significantly if you have a situation where your tenant hasn't paid rent in the last 3 months, and then you try to go through an eviction process. And in Texas, I can get them out within 30 to 45 days. In New York, I've heard some horror stories where people continue to live there for north of 12 months. So if you are in an area that is a little less, landlord friendly is what we would call it, then maybe certain other states or investing out of state may make more sense to you, because it is going to be, being that you are a landlord, may make a little bit more sense to invest in a state that is indeed more landlord friendly. So a lot of what I've already mentioned is really enticing or intriguing you guys potentially to invest out of state, especially if you're more in an expensive market. But on the flip side, there is a lot of value to investing locally. So for instance, myself, I was able to use my VA loan, purchase a duplex. Again, I just had a recent Quick Tip Tuesday video explaining do not commit mortgage fraud by using your VA loan and not occupying it, or using an FHA loan to occupy, or even a conventional loan to occupy and then not actually occupying it. That is indeed mortgage fraud. But I did purchase a duplex with my VA loan, 0% down, was able to move into that. I then was also able to purchase a single family home with a 1% kind of grant situation using my conventional loan. And then I was able to use my VA loan again on a quadplex and really acquire 2, 6, 7 total doors between the 3 houses by simply just living in them. Now, if this was something you were looking to do and purchase from out of state, it's gonna cost you a considerable amount more. Any kind of multifamily home is gonna be 25% down. Any kind of single family investment is going to be anywhere from 15 to 20% down. So in terms of the total all-in cost with the 3 properties I purchased, not including any kind of rehab or adjustments that I needed to make once I was in them, we're talking maybe $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to acquire those 3 properties. One single family alone, purchasing it as a investment out of state alone is probably gonna run you $40,000 to $60,000 depending on your market, potentially even more. While we're talking about drawbacks to purchasing properties out of state, I can actually flip this drawback kind of into a positive. So one of those things is knowing people, right? For instance, if you reached out to me wanting to purchase in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and let's say you're in San Diego. San Diego, you already know a roofer, you already know a contractor, you already know all of these people that can do work on your primary residence as well as another rental property you have there. But you're a little nervous to invest out of state because you just don't know anyone. For instance, you don't even have a property management company that can take care of a rental property that you purchase. Now, I've mentioned this before in a handful of my videos. One of the biggest assets that you can have when you invest in real estate is just surrounding yourself with the right type of people. For instance, myself, if you were looking to invest in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I've already got a roofer, I've already got a plumber, I've got a good foundation company, I also have an insurance guy, a lender, and really a full team here that can really make it as easy when it comes to investing in real estate here locally. So really, at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily have to be my local market. It can be any market that you're really looking at. Just make sure that you get connected with a good agent. Make sure that you get connected with a good lender, and make sure that they have good connections as well. For instance, there's tons of real estate agents out there that are gonna be investor friendly, but at the end of the day, hey, ask them if they actually have any rental properties. Ask if they have any contacts. Do they have a good HVAC tech? Do they have a good plumber? And if they aren't able to send you or at least tell you that they've got good connections, then maybe it's time for you to seek out either another person or another agent or another lender locally in that market, or maybe seek out another market altogether. Because the amount of stress that a property can cause you if it's constantly running into issues, maybe your property management company is horrible and they don't really have any, individual subs that can fix and address any of the issues, then investing out of state may turn into a 6-month ordeal where you wind up hating being a landlord and wind up turning around and having to sell it, and you wind up losing money. So really, at the end of the day, when it comes down to investing in state in your local market or out of state in a completely different market, it really comes down to you. I myself obviously invest locally in my market. I think the Dallas-Fort Worth area is a great market. If I lived in San Diego, I would probably be reaching out to an agent or investor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or another market that's a little bit more affordable than the San Diego area. But one thing I definitely would do is I'd be purchasing a property as a primary residence, kind of similar to what I did with my actual primary home that I live downtown with in Dallas. For instance, I have a private Airbnb suite. I also rent out a room. At the end of the day, I didn't want to have to continue to pay landlord. I wanted a roommate and an Airbnb to pay me being the landlord. So in my case, if I lived in a more expensive market, what I would do probably is I would purchase a house and find a way to make it an investment property, living in it while renting out the other rooms, or maybe purchasing a multifamily and renting out the other 2, 3, 4 potential doors, and then invest my extra cash in more of a neutral market, a market that's going to give me a little bit better cash flow and still have some appreciation. Hopefully this helps you guys understand a little bit more about what decision you should pick when it comes to investing locally in your market or potentially out of state. If you do need me to connect you with anyone in your local market or potentially in a market that is not your local market, just let me know. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below or reach out to me on Instagram or my email in the description below. I already have helped a handful of people that have reached out to me via my YouTube channel, purchase in their local market or purchase even in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I'd love to help you guys too. So thanks again for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help, and stay tuned for the next video.